Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Katie Doyle, president of the Indiana Stonewall Democrats, and this month I am teaming up still with the Indiana Democratic Party for another Conversations and Cocktails. This is our third one, and I could not be more excited for my guest tonight. We have from the 2nd District, the Indianapolis City County Councilor Keith Potts, and from the 5th. Wow. I'm thinking of my old district. Shout out Ethan. Counselor Allie Brown. So thank you guys both for being here.
Hi, Katie. Great to be with you.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So first off, what are you guys drinking?
I can start off. So as you can see, I have a very fancy retro glass. This was one of my grandfather's glasses from the 1950s. And I love treating myself to a little cocktail in it every once in a while. And it's a cherry apple Manhattan. So it's a traditional Manhattan, but with apple whiskey and with cherry bitters rather than regular whiskey and bitters. And it's a favorite here in my household.
Oh gosh. Well, okay. I love a good Manhattan. So I'm just going to have to come over and have you make me one because I don't have any of those ingredients.
Anytime.
What about you, Allie?
I hold my fire on alcohol until IDEA weekend, which big plug coming up here in August, right? So I am having a delightful Wendy's lemonade.
Nice.
Because Dilly wanted chicken nuggets after school. So
God love them. Yeah, also shout out for IDEA weekend where you can join all of our caucus members and hopefully these two beautiful board members of Stonewall here for the back in action in person IDEA convention at the new and improved French Lick. Ooh, let me not get off topic.
Katie, what cocktail are you having tonight?
I am actually having in this wonderful glass with like crocheted sailboat in it, a 7 and 7.
Hey.
So went a little old school with that, but can't go wrong with just a little whiskey and 7-Up. Absolutely. So cheers to you guys. Happy Pride.
Yeah. Happy Pride.
Also, I really want one of those. That glass is not only cute, but I feel like it would make my hands seem bigger because it's so small. And I'd like that in my life. So, I'm excited tonight to discuss my favorite thing ever. Municipalities, local government, municipal elections with my favorite counselors. So we will start off by saying first and foremost, what is your favorite thing about not only being an elected official, but, one in local government? So what is kind of like a day in the life of a city councilor?
So I'll start, if that's for Councilor Brown. So I think one of my favorite parts about being a counselor is being able to respond to constituents and get things done for them that are things that impact them every day. Whether it's helping them maneuver the process for permits and zoning, or even just as simple as getting a pothole fixed or getting a street that needs reconstruction sort of into the pipeline of those streets that need reconstruction. It's not the most glamorous work that you can have as an elected official, but it's really great and encouraging to be able to do things that make people happy and get results on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. What about you, Councilor Brown?
I love exactly what Councilor Potts said. We are the level of government closest to the ground. It's constantly fun emails, right? And getting them resolved quickly is something that I love. Talking to people and just kind of taking what I would normally do. I work in nonprofit work. I work with people. I do community building, and just doing it on a different level as a counselor is what I really love. I love when I get a pothole filled and then the calls stop. So that's always a good thing.
For a day or two,
For a day or two. But being closest to the ground, I think, is one of the coolest things about being a counselor.
Absolutely. Especially with, you guys are both so involved, even on the volunteer level, with other organizations. So you see kind of the same, people not only within the party, but, within your local areas. And to be able to kind of say, not only am I here knocking at your door because you two are some big door knockers, that you also can say, I'm your local representative, how can I help you? And curb cuts matter, you know what I mean? These little things that people, you know, you don't have the big staff like congressmen and women, but you're the ones who really get things done. So appreciate you being in there, and what a victory off of 2019. So it's just so great to see you know, all of your faces. Love it. So talk a little bit about kind of being we'll kind of get into some HRO stuff later, because I would love to talk about that as well, especially with Stonewall pushing it. But kind of, you know, what is it like running as an LGBTQ person, but not letting that be the only hat you wear, the only thing that defines you? Or, you know, kind of how do you bring things back to what matters, but also highlighting, you know, who you are and what you represent, and, you know, your impact in the queer community as well. Council Brown, you want to start this one?
Sure. Well, I have a weird privilege, passing privilege. I'm an undercover queer, I guess. I'm a bisexual, queer, pansexual woman. I don't particularly like any of those terms too much. I like queer. And so it's not, I'm married to a man. I have a son. Unless you really know me, it's not something that you can kind of read from the outside. Even though I've worked in LGBTQ politics for a long time, and with the community and in the community for a long time, it's just another part of me. It's something who I am. It's very interesting running as that, as it being as a facet of your life, especially when you get attacked for it, which I did a little. It was called a radical because I got endorsed by the Victory Fund, who endorses queer candidates, LGBTQ candidates of any party. They're just looking for more representation. So that was an interesting thing I got to deal with. Oh, sorry, you guys are going to hear Jill in the background.
Hi, Jilly.
But the other thing is, it was a constant coming out for me, because unless you already knew me and you knew these things, and people who did know me for a long time had no idea, because it's just, I feel like I literally have rainbows tattooed on my arm, so I feel like I wear it on my sleeve. But it was an interesting thing. I got endorsed when I got endorsed by the Victory Fund. I sent out an email because I was so proud of it. My husband actually got phone calls saying, "Is Allie leaving you? Is she with a woman now? What's going on?" A very close family member called him crying, thinking I was announcing I was leaving him through this endorsement through my campaign email. So, you know, you deal with a lot of weird stuff, but, you know, there's a lot of privilege in the fact that my mail pieces had my husband and my son on it. Right. So, you know, it was a facet, but it wasn't a big thing until my opponent decided to attack on that Victory Fund thing. But other than that, for me, it was a pretty easy go. And I know that's not usual. That's not the typical.
Yeah. You kind of say that whole constant, you know, sometimes it doesn't feel like a coming out, because you're like, you know, you know, all my friends know me, you know, I've been in this space for a minute, but it's almost like you feel the need to explain yourself or define yourself to where you might not have before. And, you know, just to kind of, I don't answer the questions and combat what could be negativity. I'm really glad that Zach's family likes you so much that they call him. Are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. But you know, well, I'm sure
it's been really weird, because one thing I have had, and this has been the great thing about me running as who I am, because I didn't have to run as a queer person because it wasn't an obvious thing. It's something I'm very proud of. It's who I am. But I've gotten to talk to so many women who are over 40 who themselves are bisexual or pansexual or queer of some sort, and they've kept it secret their whole life because they had an option of liking men. So they felt like, okay, I don't have to out myself. I don't have to do this. I can. And I've had so many people I know, so many people I don't know, particularly women, 40s, 50s, 60s, reach out to me and say, "You didn't have to do that, but I'm really glad you did. And now you've given me words to talk about it." And it's something that at the time it was, you know, it's something I wanted to run as my authentic self, but I didn't realize how big of an impact that would have on other people who were in that same kind of situation as I am.
No, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. When you, again, it's kind of like might not have felt like a big deal or another coming out to you, but it's, if not everybody knows it, it does open up conversations that you, in your safer spaces might not have had before. So what about you, Keith?
Yeah, I really relate to what Councillor Brown was saying about how there is this sort of kind of constant coming out on the campaign trail. And it's not even necessarily because I'm saying I'm a gay man right off the bat when I'm introducing myself to people going door to door. But it's more when you're running a really grassroots campaign and introducing yourself to every single one of your neighbors. I'm so proud that my campaign knocked on over 15,000 doors of voters. I myself did over 5,000 of those.
Yeah.
But at every door, folks are wanting to know, tell us more about you. Tell us more about the candidate. And I just would always proudly say, my husband and I live on the north side. This is our life. And there was always a little bit of a hiccup there in those conversations because there was always that sort of hesitation on my part of how are they going to react to this?
Yeah.
I never for a moment was going to ever hesitate or apologize or not be my full and true authentic self. Both of you know, and anybody who knows me knows I am who I am, and I always will be.
I don't know what that looked like. So,
but that was also such a privilege to be able to run in an area where it never became an issue. It was never part of an attack or anything like that for my campaign. I was, I think, the only Marion County, Indianapolis City County Council candidate who put up a TV ad in 2019. And part of that TV ad was me and my husband holding hands, walking down the Monon with our dog, waving at folks, saying hi. And it was just really lovely to be able to embrace that, that part of my life and not have to feel like I have to hide it away. And it was so great. My husband, he's not the most outgoing person in the world, but he knocked over 1,500 doors himself. And he's such a trooper and has just been an incredible support system through this entire process. And Brian's the best. But in the course of the campaign, I met mother of a local student here in Washington Township, and we were having coffee. She was talking, a shout out to our Moms Demand moms. We were talking about some of those issues, but she also sort of choked up as she was telling me that her son recently came out to her, and she actually was able to use my candidacy at the time as a reference point to say, see, it's not a bad thing to be part of the queer community. And just from that moment, and then every day, I've just felt such a responsibility, but such a privilege to be a role model and hopefully a good example for the queer community.
Yes, that's so great. Yeah, you do. It's funny when you kind of get the, it's like some people will kind of look at you and say, well, you don't look gay. Like, well, okay, that sounds very specific to you, right? What does that mean to you? Okay, right. Yeah, or like when I answer the door and, somebody's asking, trying to sell me something. And I'm like, well, let me go check with the boss. And they're like, yeah, talk to your husband. I'm like, no, I meant my wife. Like, she's the boss, actually, okay, cool. So, at the doors, it's kind of, it is, I feel like one of those, the great things about knocking on doors is you can it's easier, you get more comfortable in those conversations because it's easier to kind of sell yourself when you're in front of somebody and they can't just hang up the phone on you or see an ad and dismiss it. So, you can kind of help, build up what those, not necessarily talking points, but, it's got to be a little scary to put yourself out there on certain platforms while not wanting to hide, but also saying, how will my district, see me for this? And again, not wanting it to be the only thing that defines you, or that people think about when they see you, because they should be thinking about the fact that, you're putting up stop signs, street lights, and filling potholes. So I love that. But so we will, actually, Keith, let's talk more about, we'll do this first. What does representing, being, having queer representation at not only the local level, but in all levels of government. How does that make it easier for you as an elected official? How does that make it, maybe easier for the community and even easier for the LGBTQ community as a whole, in the importance of having, that representation at, I'd say many levels. I'm like, not, shout out to Senator Ford, we're working on it in Indiana, but like, how does having those, Pete Buttigieg running for president, Secretary Pete, how does that, help us as a community, in within government?
Yeah, I was actually going to start right off by talking about Secretary Pete as well as Assistant Secretary Levine.
Yes.
I think Health and Human Services, our first transgender Senate confirmed individual in American history, which is just incredible. And what I think it just does so beautifully is it empowers the next generation of LGBTQ leadership to not just take their place at the table, but to not feel like they have to apologize for having that seat in the first place. There are so many terms that are sort of coded language that are used against the queer community that even terms such as weak, that is something that is a coded word that folks are willing to go all the way there and say it's because somebody is queer, but they'll use some coded terms and language to kind of undercut and try to sort of throw us off our game. But the more individuals that we see from the queer community in these positions of power, of course, with Secretary Pete being the first openly queer member of a presidential cabinet, we see no, we do not only belong at the table, we don't have to apologize for being here in the first place. And so I think just even going to our most recent council meeting about a week and a half ago with the Indianapolis City County Council, we unanimously and bipartisanly passed a council resolution celebrating the anniversary of the Stonewall riots and LGBTQ Pride Month. And we had our history-making 4 members out of 25 that are from the LGBTQ community on our council standing together, reading this proclamation. And it just sends such a strong message to our community that we're here and we're getting things done.
We're here, we're queer. Get used to it, honey.
Right.
We're getting things done. We're getting elected. Absolutely. Councilor Brown.
Sorry, Dilla's uniquely timing everything to do this right as every time I go back on. But it's amazing. So I started into politics. So I'm 36. So my first election cycle was end of 2007 through 2008. And I worked on a presidential campaign. And I remember we had a team to do LGBTQ outreach. And it was really focusing on people who had recently been kicked out of the military through Don't Ask, Don't Tell, particularly through so many Iraqi translators, Arabic translators, and all this kind of stuff. And to think that was less than 15 years ago, to just go through all of this and to go from just one with Barney Frank to multiple LGBTQ people elected to the House and the Senate, to LGBT, there's the governor of Colorado is as a gay man, to having a record number here in Indianapolis with 4 LGBTQ members, to electing people across the state. We have our second LGBTQ mayor, and we have elected our first, and I know she's watching because I saw her, our first amazing transgender counselor elected in Indiana. And just to see all this and just see the embrace of it, I remember how terrifying that was and how I wanted to stay in the closet because of what all these people are going through when I started into politics, and how so many, a congressman that I admire, his chief of staff was a gay man who hid it for a really long time because he was afraid. And now we're in this space, and it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And not to just see it in politics, but, everywhere in pop culture and everywhere around. And I know we talk about everything We talk about everything. Sometimes it's too corporate, but the difference between this and 15 years ago, when I tried to walk in the Columbia Pride Parade in South Carolina, and it was 3 floats, and everyone just threw stuff at us. The difference between that and now is it's amazing. And I just saw somebody say hi from DeKalb County. Fun fact, I used to be DeKalb County's chair back in the day. Hi, former Auburn resident here. Hi.
Oh, shout out to Sarah Payne too.
Yeah.
Speaking of Auburn, point them anywhere. I'll tell you. I'll convince somebody to get in there. No, that's that's I don't even know what I was gonna say. I got so excited for like 2023. But no, it's so funny that you were working on these things so long ago, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell didn't even end until, thank you, Obama. Was 2011, and I mean it was so the fact that people can enlist and sacrifice their lives for our country, but then can be kicked out for being gay. I mean, it's like not even disconnect. You almost want to, I don't know, ignorance. I'm not really sure what the word is, because you're almost like, how was this never a thing? And it's almost kind of still surprising to me that in my lifetime we'll have people who would probably look at that and be like, why was that ever a thing? That seems crazy. But it is so great that we've come this far, and we have so many great LGBTQ elected officials in the state of Indiana. No thanks to anything that the Republicans and Mike Pence are doing. I feel like every time I say we are making so many great moves, as an LGBTQ community in this state, people are always like, Mike Pence's state? Yes. It's a work in progress. Again, I mean, we still, unfortunately, the conversion therapy ban couldn't go through. There's always things that we can, focus on and do. But it starts with getting wonderful people like you elected. So don't forget that. But also, kind of what I was saying earlier, Councilor Potts, one of the things that Stonewall's been working on is passing these HROs. Every year there's 1, 2, maybe a handful of cities that pass a proclamation or have HR for Pride, which is great. But these long-lasting HROs that really we need to be doing on a local level is so important. So could you talk to us about the need for those and why they're so important and how they can really help in everyone's city? And I hope there is a local elected official from every city watching this right now, because if you haven't done it or thought about it, you should.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. I also just, before we get too far from the point, of course, thanks President Obama for repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but also thanks to President Biden for repealing the unethical ban on transgender individuals serving in the United States military. It was just so important, and he didn't even hesitate. He did that as one of his first major executive actions. So I just wanted to be sure that we pointed that out. Democrats are the party who unequivocally and enthusiastically support the LGBTQ community. And that said, we can talk about one of our great Democrats who was recently elected to Carmel, Indiana. Miles Nelson worked with his Republican colleagues and the Republican mayor to pass a resolution and proclamation celebrating Pride Month in the city of Carmel. It was the first time ever that Carmel announced that they were having a Pride recognition. And we saw—
And a Pride. They had a Pride. Like
having Pride festivities. It's
high schoolers in a group were like, let's have a Pride. Like, okay.
Beautiful. And
yes.
Other states, even in their council meetings, they were quite literally racing to try to be the first one to issue a Pride proclamation, or they wanted to join the list. And I think we might actually be in the double digits now of the number of cities and towns and municipalities in Indiana who have authored proclamations or special resolutions celebrating and recognizing LGBTQ Pride Month. And when we think about how long it took for us to just get here. We think about how recently the battle over RFRA was with the Republican legislature and former Governor Pence. We see how much the movement, how far the movement has come since the legalization of same-sex marriage nationwide. But the element of it that's still missing is here in Indiana and in a lot of states around the country, queer individuals can still be fired for being queer. They can be discriminated from housing or from public resources for being queer, discriminated as far as wanting to keep a family together or build a family or access to health care. And it's just such a shame that we still see that so often. I'm so hopeful that Congress will eventually pass the Equality Act, and we should all be contacting our representatives and senators to encourage them to jump on as co-sponsors to that legislation and pass that and support that. But what we can do at the local level throughout the state of Indiana is for the cities that don't have human rights ordinances in place already, we would obviously encourage them to get something in place to at least say, this isn't okay. You can't discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity. And then to take it a step further, we can strengthen those HROs to make sure that there are real safeguards in place to make sure that folks aren't doing it and they're not just, it's not just that they're not getting caught, but really they know that there are consequences for businesses discriminating against LGBTQ individuals, whether that's as customers or as employees, healthcare providers, housing providers, all of that.
I mean, we still have, schools doing it, private schools. I mean, you can use taxpayer dollars to discriminate now. I mean, it's what is that? Like,
yes. And it's so important because we are seeing, and as I'm so proud of the next generation that's younger than even the three of us are, the Zoomers, the Gen Z generation, who is just so open-minded, is so much more willing to accept the real spectrums that are gender identity and sexual orientation. Because what we're seeing is that every single person, they have a queer neighbor or cousin or sibling or friend or a fellow parishioner at their church or customer or coworker. And so without rambling on for too much longer, I just think we're getting to a place in our state and in our country truly where the LGBTQ community is rightfully being recognized for being just who we are, which is that's your neighbors and your friends.
That's exactly right. And again, things get, it's so much easier to get things done on a local level. Things might not happen at the state house, but there are steps you can take to do things now. And even where we have councils who might push back or, might be a Republican majority. I mean, shout out Mayor Tom, Fort Wayne just did the city council, might not have been able to pull it together, but so he was able to step up and do it. And so we have, not only mayors doing that, but city councils doing that. And, the proclamations are great, and celebrating Pride is always, we want every single, hopefully, city to step up and do that. But, it's really the long, putting the teeth into the, the real things that we can get done on the local level is important. Council Brown, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just think the big thing to realize is that this change has happened rapidly here. As welcome and awesome as we are here in Indianapolis, and we are frankly pretty awesome. It was only like 3 councils ago that the HRO had to go through a couple times because there were Democrats that weren't ready. So, in working in this, being queer isn't controversial. It's not as big of a deal. It's not edgy. It's not seen as counterculture because of the work that so many in the queer community have done to normalize. When you start talking, Councilor Potts said it, everyone knows somebody, right? We're roughly, 10% of the population?
They still, if they don't, they're still able to, kind of not maybe not relate, but it's almost like, this like, I don't care, attitude. You're like, that's wonderful. You don't even have to know anybody.
4 years before I was elected, so not the immediate counselor before me, but the one before that, she was horrifically anti-gay to the point that she would harass some of her LGBTQ constituents. They went from her to 4 years later, me. So if you want to talk about change, it happens, and I'm not special, right? The district is changing. I think I worked really hard and I won because I worked really hard. Would that probably help? But the people of the district are changing. They don't tolerate this anymore. I stood in front of the Catholic church in my district that was a polling location. Election morning, a very angry gentleman came up to me. He said, "I don't want to vote for you, but I'm going to because that guy sent out the stuff and I like gay people." And then he went in and I was like, that is a change. He went into the Catholic church to go do, and just that change, right? Yeah. Just talking to, we can't be on here without acknowledging the work that Zach Adamson has done, Counselor Adamson has done, and the trails he has blazed in Indiana for LGBTQ people, especially here for us in Indianapolis. He can tell you his first time when he was at large, how hard that was for him. And it's because of the work that he's done and the work JD did the first time he ran, and then when he successfully became a senator. Josh Owens putting his name out there to run for U.S. Senate. All these people who, even if they didn't go all the way to the mat, or governor, they didn't go all the way to the mat, didn't get all the way there the first time. They've blazed a path for us. I think about Karen Goldner, who was elected in Fort Wayne, I think in 2007. She was elected to the council, and she came out after she was elected. And the conservative district, she represented how hard she worked and what she went through. So you start it's not that far ago. This isn't right. This. And when we talk about civil rights, it always seems so far, but it's not. It's not. And we owe so much to so many people who came before us, and people who are still in it who came before us, because they did the work. So it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. It's not. We're not knocking people over with it, right? And that's a good feeling that it's just another facet. People are more surprised about the blue hair than they are that I'm queer. So, that's a good thing.
Right. Maybe they noticed that first. I don't know, right? They're not so concerned about that, but I love that. That's great. I mean, absolutely. So this question is kind of more for you, Allie. I mean, speaking of, those who have gone before us, I mean, let us not forget, Secretary Pete is Secretary Pete, but he won Iowa, people. So, it is, we have, Zach Adamson on the council. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that's because Councilor Potts and I both went to Iowa to work for Pete right before the thing. Just saying. We're going to take all the credit for the Iowa win.
Yeah. Are you trying to leave Indiana? You're trying to get some big time job here where you're no. That's hilarious. That's exactly right. It's because you two are, both hardworking people. And again, it's not about one hat, it's about all of them, and it's about knocking doors. Pay attention, people. This my question is kind of we have all these amazing trailblazers and the people who have done the work and the people that have come before us to not only have a seat at the table but make more space there and make it seem more okay, and like you said, not having to apologize for that. But what is it like to kind of be a queer woman in a space that has been dominated by queer men? No slight to the queer men, but kind of how building that lane, and also kind of not just saying I am a queer person, but I am so many other things, and that these people have come before me and they've made that that space and that acceptance to a lot of degree in that area, but also you being just a woman in politics, which is kind of a whole different thing. But how is that been to kind of to answer? I don't know.
The first queer woman elected in Marion County, so that is pretty cool. I don't like being the first, though. I shouldn't be the first. There should be plenty that have come before me. And I always think, I might walk into a room and I am probably the tallest person in the room, but I'm there because I'm standing on the backs of giants. Whether it's amazing women who blazed a trail for moms running for office, for queer women for running for office, for heck, looking to people like MJ Hagar out of Texas who proudly brandish her tattoos, all the things that make us different, right? That make us different from the cookie cutter. And there's nothing wrong with the women who ran in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, but there was a look, there was a style that we had to conform to the way that men did it, right? We wore suits, pantsuits, or suits.
Man, I love
just like men's stuff. We tried to be, we had to, right? But the more women who break through those barriers and they make those openings wider and wider so that barrier slowly goes away, the better it is. You know, as a queer woman, as a bisexual woman, as a mom, as all these things, there were so many parts that were scary going into this, but knowing that there were great groups and great people to talk to, and reaching out and talking with people, it helps. It helps. And like I had said earlier, I didn't realize it at the time, but how big of a deal it was for me to be out and running in this to people I knew. So I just,
like you said, your support from the Victory Fund too. I mean,
yeah, the Victory Fund. I mean, my first job I got in Indianapolis when I moved down here was working for Freedom Indiana. And I was the first Hoosier hired for that. And that was the campaign to stop HJR 6 and HJR 3 that would have banned same-sex marriage in our state constitution. And the only reason I was able to get that job was because somebody, Rick Sutton, had been organizing for years through Indiana Equality and all these other groups to allow us, when our time was there, when it was most needed, that we could grow. And it's because of the work Rick had done. It's because of the work Mark St. John had done. It's because of the work all these amazing people had done in our state house, living fearlessly who they were at a time it wasn't as acceptable, that, we get to walk into this and get these doors open. I worked in HIV education and worked with HIV positive people for a long time. And think of all the barriers that they went through, the people who stepped up. And just as Ellen coming out on TV was a breakout moment, Magic Johnson announcing his HIV status was a thing. And you start thinking about all those. Sorry.
Well, the new, NFL group.
You start thinking about all the different,
exactly,
all those different pivotal moments, right? And everyone has their faults, and you can't stand anybody, but you start thinking about every single one of those little factors. As much of a character as Just Jack was on Will and Grace, he got that in there. He made it more okay. You just started adding on to this,
right?
And it's made it so much easier to be ourselves and to hold our own and to be authentically who I am. I was authentically Allie at every door I knocked. I'm authentically Allie in that council chamber, and it's because of the people who lived authentically before me that allowed me to do that.
Absolutely. That's, I actually have Brittany's Freedom Indiana sign in my office, and what I love about the sign, in the most ironic way, it's like, it says HR 3 at the bottom, HR 6 at the bottom, and it's the 6 has white out over it, and then there's a 3, and it just always reminds me, because not only I'm like, love that, just reuse it, but also it kind of goes to the fact that, like, the work is never done, and that these small things lead to bigger things that lead to also never forgetting that as soon as we slow down, these things can be overturned. These things can be, wiped away. And it's, again, why, local government matters so much. Because if things aren't moving at the state house, there's things we can do on the local side, and everything helps. Everything that we can do that's in the, to directory forward, a step in the right direction is just more Hoosiers that we are helping, just more LGBTQ folks that we are, bringing into that space. I am loving all these little things at the bottom, but Batesville, okay. But yeah, do you have anything to add there, Keith, on that, and just kind of how some resources that you might have had, while running have, let us not forget, we're all Stonewall board members, and Stonewall is in case you aren't aware, oh my gosh, maybe I should have said this at week 1. I'm so sorry, y'all. We are the statewide LGBTQ caucus, and we are here for you people, allies, LGBTQ folks, candidates, volunteers. If you are thinking about running, interested in running, we have amazing longtime activists on our board. We have current electeds on our board who can kind of speak to, not only those challenges, but also help you get connected with the resources that there are out there in terms of how you frame these conversations and, how you go to somebody's door and, not necessarily feel scared, but be able to say, be your authentic self, and it just kind of smoothing into conversation. And again, you two, my favorite little field rats here who love to knock on doors and, do the work every day. It's just, we have so much knowledge and expertise and experience, that we can help provide. And with that being, said, like, what advice would you give to those who were not only thinking about running for a local office, but, might be in the LGBTQ community, to kind of say, you don't always have to put a letter in the newspaper. You don't always have to put it in your ad, kind of how do you make it more you in the conversation and, focus on what it is you're doing and what resources might be out there for folks.
So I guess the main thing I would say on this topic is never try to be any more or less queer than you are. Whatever version of queer in the community that you are, that is perfect.
I know, I spoke on pantsuits. I'm like, as somebody who wears a suit like every day, I'm like, I don't know, can I be like, where do I go from here?
Well, to that point of clothing, though, I know I care a lot about what I wear. I enjoy wearing bright colors. I enjoy wearing kind of sassy outfits. And again, talking about some of the coded language that we experience, there are times where I get comments or looks about my clothes because I'm unapologetic in wearing what I like to wear and looking how I love to look. And sometimes people make some comment about the height of my hair or how tight my pants may or may not be. My typical response is, I know, looks good, right?
Right, you noticed, didn't you? Right.
And we move along because we can never apologize for who we are. We have to own every element of who we are. And to one of the last things, the sort of last question that Councillor Brown talked about so wonderfully, I do think within the queer community, as there is just within American society in general, there is a bigger need for cisgender white men to step up and uplift others within the community, because we do see sometimes, I'll sometimes kind of tease that being a cisgender white gay man barely counts as diversity anymore, because we check most of the boxes that are within the halls and institutions of power. And so for any cisgender queer white man who is considering running for office or wants to be a leader in their community, both be a proud voice for the queer community and make sure that we're not taking the microphone or not taking the spotlight from any other diverse and incredible member of our community that deserves to be at the forefront of these conversations. And just a plug as far as resources go, of course, the Victory Fund and Victory Institute, if you can attend one of their trainings, it's an incredibly, almost invaluable long weekend of trainings and workshops, as well as networking. And just continue to stay involved and be unapologetically who you are. That's the best advice I think I could possibly give.
What about you, Kelly?
Yeah, I would say, just to echo that, that's exactly it. Victory Fund is a great resource. I know all of us got endorsed by them. They're kind of the premier, the top out there. There's other LGBT groups that you can apply to. If you're in Indiana, you better be a member of the Stonewall Dems. Because we're your local group and provide a lot of support and a lot of questions, a lot of help with all that kind of stuff. And you should join anyway because we're just fun people. But exactly what Keith said is be who yourself. Don't crank it up unless you want to crank it up. Don't hide it away unless you want to. I don't. As much as I enjoy wearing glitter and feathers and things like that, which I do, and hopefully we'll get to show in the Pride Parade this October. I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of girl, so that's what I also rock at the door, right? I just myself. That's the big thing, and I know if you want to run for office, you're gonna read all these different things about. Sorry, my house is totally gone to chaos. The dog is doing something, and the kid is singing.
It's a Thursday.
It's live here. Birch. But if you're
yelling at each other right now,
Birch and Franklin are yelling at each other, and Dill is counting to 1,000. So that's where we're at right now. If you can't handle these things, don't run for office. No. But, if you're going to run for office, think about who you truly are. Think about the message you're trying to convey. Make sure that you can convey that message, and what you're wearing or what you're doing or how you're presenting doesn't come across and stop people from hearing that message. When I ran, my hair was brown because I am 6'3", have quite a few visible tattoos, and was showing up on people's doors. So I thought if I could eliminate one quick thing, go to brown hair for a little while, because I want to make sure they heard my message.
Yeah.
So, be who you are. Don't let things and excuses stop you from fulfilling, your potential and your destiny here. If you have a kid and you think that's a barrier, let me tell you, Dill loves door knocking. Riding in a stroller, getting to hang out, say hi to people, eat snacks. He's great at that. Now he goes to all different kinds of stuff. If I have a full-time job. I'm a counselor. I'm a mom. You just do what you got to do, because if you're the right person that can lift up your community, that your voice that needs to be heard, it's not. You can't wait for a night to come and save you. You got to do it yourself. So don't think you're too out there or too different or too different from what they've ever elected before, because frankly, people we've always elected aren't getting things done. It's people who are elected who are different, who have different thoughts, different ideas, come from different communities, are the ones we need to run for office. So if you have excuses, talk to us, because we'll help you work through those excuses.
Yes, because there are none. Those are not real. They're in your head. I always tell people, if you're thinking about it, you're 70% of the way there. Give me an hour. I'll get you to 90 before it's fine. There are resources, and that, there is the Victory Fund that endorses candidates, but there's also the Victory Institute, which, focuses on year-long training of candidates. The DNC has wonderful trainings. There are resources online, there are resources remote, there are, resources in the state, out of the state. Shout out to the state party, the county party summit. That hasn't already happened, right? The county party summit is coming up this sometime soon. Check out their Facebook for more information. That is great. Great resources to at least, at the very least, network. Because one of the best resources is honestly what I always say is find somebody that that's already doing it and call them and talk to them. Even if you don't know an elected official, I swear all of them are very nice. Reach out to them. Say, you don't have to have a call that's saying I need a training right now. Call somebody and say, I'm working through these. As an elected official, what are some of the hesitations you had? What were some of the struggles? Find somebody that kind of, maybe represents a district like yours, or, another woman in politics, who might, if you're a woman, you're thinking about running, find those people that you think you relate to and talk to them about it. It's so helpful.
Three of us, because Zach was already in office, but myself, Keith, and Ethan Evans all flipped districts, being ourselves. We all flipped Republican districts. I think Keith flipped his by 50 points. It was insane. I flipped mine by 20.
It was 24 points, to be clear. Not that big.
It was 50.
Mine by 20. And Ethan beat the minority leader at the time. Like, we all ran as ourselves. We all ran in really large districts that are pretty much equivalent to a state house district. You know, we and I say this with a lot of love, Keith, we're nothing special. We just went out and did it.
Yeah.
And so if you want to run, you don't have to be somebody special. You don't have to have some amazing story. You just have to have a passion to serve. And if you really have a passion to serve and you're running because you want to help others, you can get there.
Wonderful people like these two can help sell you to your amazing district. You just have to care and do the work. That's exactly right. I mean, yeah, I am thankful again to both of you for running and also for being a resource for so many others, because I know that you are. But on a lighter note, who would you guys say is one of your favorite role models? Maybe in politics, maybe outside of politics. It can be anyone. Maybe one of your favorite LGBTQ role models, or somebody who you.
I'd be happy to dive in on this one if we're talking.
Yeah, I'm excited for your answer. That I liked your little hesitation there. I was like, oh, okay.
If we're talking about the political nerd in me, where I'm always sort of looking.
We can do both. We can do like a political one and then maybe a not political one.
Sure. Politically, I think U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, is an incredible champion. She is an openly queer woman. She wins Wisconsin.
First ever elected to Congress, first ever elected to the Senate. Let's
not
forget.
We see Wisconsin every year when it's a presidential year and we're always biting our nails. But when Tammy Baldwin is on the ballot, she blows it out of the water. And that's because she is who she is. But once she is in that position of power, once she has her seat at the table, she works her you-know-what off, and she delivers for her constituents, and she delivers for her state. And that's exactly the type of champion and role model that I just love to see, and we want to always see more of within the LGBTQ community. People who their identity is something they never apologize for, and then they show up and they're the best at what they do. So I really appreciate Tammy Baldwin for all she does.
The underlining message there is Democrats get things done. You can wear a lot of hats, you can be queer, but if you're a Democrat, you get things done. And people, I think, in Indiana start to realize that, especially on the local level, which is why, again, municipal elections matter. Go ahead, Council Brown. What about you?
Absolutely. Vice Chair Clerk Mila Eldridge said last night at the Lawrence Township that I loved, Democrats deliver. We deliver. So I love that. But I think one of my first role models, and she was a role model in sports and kind of in life, Billie Jean King, right? She went toe to toe with people who said that she couldn't do it because she was a woman, because, and then she was outed. She couldn't do stuff because she was queer. She couldn't, all this kind of thing. And she showed them that if you work hard, anything is achievable. Anything is possible. You're not better than me. You're not better because of the way you were born, because of the way I am born, because of the gender I have, because of my sexuality, my orientation, any of this kind of stuff. She said, if you're going to play me, you're going to play me as a person, and I'm going to beat you. And I've always admired that going, you're going to come at me. That's fine. I'm still going to beat you. So I love that. And she was definitely just a role model as a kid all the way through. And the amount I admire her now as an adult is just, and it's just, she's amazing. So.
I felt like I was on Family Feud for a moment, because as soon as you said Billie Jean King, I was like, good answer.
Right.
Good answer.
Yes.
So I have to say, if I could contribute a pop culture answer, just a champion and an icon in her own right, that I think is just really indicative of the direction that the country is going and that the culture is going. The actress Laverne Cox, she is just iconic. She is a star. She's been in Orange is the New Black and done guest stints on so many different shows. But we see her, and it's just amazing. There's a transgender woman of color on the cover of some of the most glamorous magazines in the country, getting the most prestigious awards in the entertainment industry. And it's just so inspiring to see every year more and more members of the queer community just stepping into the space, owning it, and just thriving. It's beautiful to see.
But the thing is, behind the scenes, they're doing the work. They're still doing the work. I mean, they, it's not, as much as you are a presence for others, it's the nonstop work behind the scenes that most people don't see, that helps so many others. And that's, I'm sure why, a big reason why, absolutely, those are, some great role models. I mean, can't argue with any of those. Like, yes, 100%. So as we're wrapping up, I have to know, because Indie Pride is I keep wanting to say postponed. It is virtual, how are you guys celebrating Pride this year? Or at home, maybe going to your favorite queer space. How are you guys planning to celebrate? You're like, every day. Man, what I've been doing this.
I got a Indianapolis Pride flag, which was pretty cool. But outside of the material that comes with June, this year, one of the big things I've been learning about and spending a lot of time learning about is Autistic Pride, which is celebrated on just past Friday on June 18th. Members of the autistic community tend to come out at a higher rate and be more definitive in their orientation. And as the mom of an autistic kiddo, that's something that I've fallen into the autistic community as an ally, and learning so much about that space and how to truly be your authentic self. So that's been something that's been really great. Dill has, we've been doing a lot of rainbows. He's a big fan of rainbows. He calls them his pride flags. So we've been doing rainbows and working color mixing and stuff. So it just all kind of comes in together nicely in June. But yeah, just learning about the way different communities celebrate Pride, not just physical locations, but different groups. And also I got to attend, shout out if anyone from Greenwood Pride is here. I got to attend that.
Yes.
It was amazing. Michelle Dahl and all the people who put all the work to that was brilliant and beautiful and wonderful. So we got to attend that. So that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'd say, I think especially since the last year and a half, we all really were sort of forced to stay at home by nature of just everything going on in the world. This Pride Month, it's been so much about reconnecting with those really beautiful relationships that exist within the Pride community. Those friends who are like family to many in the LGBTQ community. Their friends are their family because they aren't comfortable or able to go home and feel like it's a celebration of Pride Month with their family. I'm so grateful. My mom got her first ever Pride flag this year and has it waving in her suburb of Chicago kind of conservative town. But then once she put hers up, she noticed within a week, 3 other houses in the neighborhood put theirs up. And so it's just a reminder for all of us to always wave our little Pride flag.
Yes.
And especially to support queer businesses, queer spaces, queer-owned businesses, and nonprofit organizations that support the queer community. Their work is year-round. We see so many corporations who, I think it's great that corporations see it as a way to profit and to benefit from selling Pride merchandise or things like that. But that Pride merchandise goes off the shelf once it's July 1st. whereas nonprofit organizations, queer-owned businesses in queer spaces, they continue to run and operate and need business year-round. So hopefully everyone listening can find a queer-owned business or a nonprofit organization in their area, or there are so many incredible ones throughout the state. And I'm just so thrilled to look forward to potentially having an in-person Pride Parade this October. I know Councilor Brown and I, along with our colleagues, Vice President Adamson and Councilor Ethan Evans, we were slated to be some of the Grand Marshals for last year's Pride Parade, and then the pandemic happened, so we weren't able to enjoy that. But hopefully there will be just so many more opportunities for the queer community and for friends and family alike to join us to celebrate this month and to continue to celebrate the queer community all year round.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And shout out, I have my Gay for Democracy shirt on, and I think the main reason I just would point that out, the LGBTQ community is a force to be reckoned with when we organize ourselves and when we show up to the ballot box.
Yes.
When
we vote.
We vote, we are organized, we are unified, and we must work to continue to unify and organize our community, because the more unified and organized we are, the more impact we will always continue to have.
Absolutely. So don't forget to have those conversations with your friends and your family and your people. It all starts with a conversation. Get people registered to vote. Again, you have resources. I just learned something from Council Brown here. Again, great resources right here. Buying a t-shirt is great, but, visit those restaurants that are giving a percentage of their profits to nonprofits that are helping, continue this progress. And again, vote, because it matters. As much as I love June, showing up in November is also important. Don't forget that. But again, thank you both so much for joining me tonight. I miss you both dearly. I was just telling somebody, it was 2 years ago where, Senator Ford was leading the Pride Parade and I was front row at a Lizzo concert. So here we are. We're all celebrating Pride in our own way. Again, the work continues. I appreciate you both. It is lovely seeing you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy
Cheers,
Pride.
everyone.
Cheers. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Katie. Bye-bye.
Bye.